Football Friday here on Birds 365. Hopefully we can get your weekend started on the right foot. We would be the Mac and Mac guys on Birds 365. John McMullen and Jody McDonald. And J-Mac, not only is today show number 476 for you and I have done most of them every once in a while. I miss one every once in a while. You're traveling with the Eagles, but you and I have done most of the 476 together. This would be the end of week 99.
Week
we
99, yeah.
99 consecutive weeks of Birds 365. Now, there's a holiday Monday in there every once in a while, Thanksgiving. We take days off at Christmas. So that's why 99 times 5 would be 495. And we're only at 476. So that tells you we've had a couple of days off here or there. But as far as weeks go, we've done 99 consecutive weeks until after today's show.
Yeah,
you and I are getting a little bit.
We're like Cal Ripken. Yeah, I don't want to go that far. We're like Cal Ripken. Yeah, but we're getting a week off, man.
How about that? What are all the poor people for what stream into Birds 365 every single day? And we truly do love you. Have I expressed my love enough? I think I have. So you can return the favor by hitting the like button during your listening time today with Mac and Mac, and give us a good send off. We're not going away forever. We're just going away for a week. They said, guys, you've worked hard. Enjoy a week. Take some downtime. So John and I will return 10 days from now.
Yeah, I'm going to call it season 3 of Birds 365. That's what I'm going to call it. Season 3. Birds 365.
Rather than waiting till April, which is our start date, we started
April 1. Season 3, because
it's a nice you're getting break. A month jump head start on it.
Yeah. Well, March 15th, new league year.
Okay, you're lining up with the league. That's we kind of do talk about the league every single day in and day out here on Birds 365. But yet next week, yes, John and I are off. Little hiatus for the show, but we are going nowhere fast, so we'll be back. Yeah, they'll be heading out to Indianapolis by the time we get back. The combine runs what, Friday to Tuesday, so we'll be getting back in the middle of it.
What's today? It starts next week.
It starts Tuesday and runs through Friday. So we're
Tuesday through Friday. So
we'll come back with all the grades and the like, and the rumors and the like from all the combine stuff. So next week we're off here, but we got you for the next 2 hours. We got 2 good guests coming your way, 2 of our stalwarts who are here often, outstanding beat writers for the Philadelphia Eagles, Martin Frank and Dave Zangaro. Will both hop aboard with us today. All right, Johnny Mac, you can scratch one of the potential defensive coordinators off the list for the Philadelphia Eagles. We know that Eagles and Jim Leonard decided to go in separate directions after he interviewed last week. Well, Vance Joseph made the call easy for the Eagles because he is returning to Denver, going back to the Mile High City. I'll ask you, and I don't remember it off the top of my head. Do you ever remember a former head coach going back to a team that fired him as a coordinator at a later date? If there is one, I apologize for not remembering it. Just seems strange.
I think Wade Phillips is in that category, but I have to double check because, Wade's coached everybody under,
twice.
I believe Wade has done that. Doesn't happen often, but yeah, I mean, you can shine it up new because it's, Sean Payton, and obviously he's got a lot of cachet. So I don't think it's going to be a problem. I do think it's interesting. You said scratch him off the list. He was never on my list, so I'm feeling pretty good. I think I got a beat on this thing. But it was, from the Denver perspective, I know Mike Cleese, who follows the Broncos, really plugged in there, had him, saying he thought he had a good opportunity for the Eagles job and the Denver job. And I'm like, this is what I talked about at the beginning of the week. I don't, same thing with Jim Leonard. He needs hip surgery. There's no question about it. But, mutually, agreeing to go in different, I'm not buying that. I'm not buying this. I don't think at the end of the day, and we'll see. I could be wrong, and we'll show up for season 3. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I think it's Dennard Wilson versus Sean Desai. I think it's been that from pretty much day one. And I think, the Eagles can say when they ultimately make the decision, they can say, look at all the people we talked to. This was an exhaustive, extensive search, and this is the best guy, Jody McDonald. That's what I think is going on here.
And while I agree with your read on the situation, I brought this up yesterday. If that's the way they do it, that's fine. It does give them some latitude to be able to say exhaustive search. We went to such great lengths. What am I never friggin' Zoomed with Vance Joseph? Oh, such great lengths to find the best coaching candidate you could. Yeah, right. Get out of the spin cycle. But here's the spin that they can't take off it. How many guys have they interviewed for the offensive coordinator position, John?
Yeah, well, I said, they may have interviewed people and it just hasn't come out yet. They're certainly not, the Eagles are not one of those teams that's going to say, there are certain teams that say, you'll see it on their Twitter accounts, we've completed an interview with such and such. The Eagles didn't even do that for their head coaching search, which I complained about to the team. They wouldn't even confirm the interviews for head coach. So, they're a very clandestine organization as a whole. There are other teams that say, as I said, we've completed an interview with insert name for our defensive coordinator position, never mind head coach. Most teams confirm head coaching interviews. The Eagles do not, at least they didn't as of when they hired Nick Sirianni 2 years ago. So just because it hasn't come out doesn't mean they haven't done as I said, they have to jump through the one hoop, and that's interview somebody from outside the organization that satisfies the Rooney Rule. So if they ultimately come up on, today at 10:05 and say Brian Johnson has been elevated to offensive coordinator, they would have had to have jumped through that hoop. So, even though we didn't hear about it. So just because you don't hear about it, but clearly they know everybody's happy with Brian Johnson for whatever reason. It doesn't make a lot of sense, to be honest, versus, say, Dennard Wilson.
Right. That's where I'm going with this, John. And I did yesterday. Let me repeat myself. If you're Dennard Wilson, you can say everybody's happy with. Well, I'll tell you one guy who might not be, because in comparison, Dennard Wilson had to wait and wait and wait and hear all these reports leaked by the Eagles or by whoever else. And
not by the Eagles.
Exactly. Zero people have, according to the Eagles or any other leaking sources, talked to a different potential offensive coordinator other than the guy that they hired from within. Dennard has to wait and wait and wait and wait and wait and watch everybody else come through here.
He knows he's been in the industry for a long time. He knows how it works. Assistant coaches know how it works.
How's it work? Do they do 5 or 6 or 7 guys, or they do one? Because the Eagles have done this completely differently.
You can't do one.
So I don't know how you can say they know how it works. The Eagles did it 2 different ways.
They can't interview one candidate. So that assumption is just wrong. Just because
I'm sorry. The Eagles have, if you go by what's been released and they're keeping it under wraps, they couldn't keep the 6 or 7 defensive coordinators they talked to under wraps, but they kept the one outside the organization that they talked to. So you're right. I apologize if they have to jump through hoops and they have to, as per the rules, interview 2. 2 is compared to 7 rather than 1 is compared to 7.
Well, again, and if I told you 100%, I know they've interviewed 2 people to be offensive coordinator, I would tell you I know they interviewed 2 people for offensive coordinator. I don't know that. If I told you, well, the Eagles interviewed, technically, if you want to go by those reports, technically we don't even know if they've interviewed Sean Desai, because that's never come out. Now, the Vance Joseph one, there's this the Eagles interviewed him on Zoom. It was supposed to be Wednesday and Thursday. It was Tuesday and Wednesday. It was 4.5 hours. There's all this concrete information. about the Vance Joseph interview. Now, why, Jody? It's coming from one side, not the other. Right. They want it out there. They want that hardcore information out there. And again, you go to the Denver reports. Oh, Vance could have had the Philadelphia job, but he decided on the Denver job. Is that true because it was reported? Well, it's spun by one direction. Maybe it is true. I personally don't think it's true, but maybe it is true. Maybe Vance Joseph had an offer from the Eagles and said, you know what? I want to go back to Denver. I love Sean Payton. Wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. Sean Payton's a potential future Hall of Fame coach. He's sort of on the borderline. It's possible. It's possible. Do I necessarily believe that report? I think it's one-sided. I think it's coming from one direction, and that direction is Vance Joseph's camp, and they're obviously going to spin things in a nice shiny way. I've said from the start, and again, maybe I'm wrong. I said, to me, from what Jeffrey Lurie did, tried to bring back Jonathan Gannon, from what Nick Sirianni has said continuously, not just at his season-ending press conference, he wants a specific style of defense that he prefers, that he thinks is difficult to deal with. And that indicates to me they're not looking to change from their philosophy, from their base philosophy. And that indicates to me Dennard Wilson or Sean Desai, because those are the two candidates that have experience in that philosophy. I could be totally off base, but as far as, things leaking from one side, the other side, look, there's no doubt the Eagles are very comfortable with Brian Johnson. For whatever reason, they're not as comfortable with Dennard Wilson. Maybe it's because they don't believe in Dennard Wilson. Maybe it's because they like Sean Desai better. Maybe they do want to hire one of these college coaches and go in a different direction. Maybe they just want to pick their brains. There could be all these avenues, but they're set on Brian Johnson, and they're set on Brian Johnson because of the quarterback. I think Dennard Wilson is smart enough to know that, hey, he doesn't have that connection. And there's nobody on defense as important to Jalen Hurts, even if he did. So the quick move to Brian Johnson has to do with making the quarterback happy, making the quarterback comfortable. And there's nothing wrong with that. They should do that. I think they're two completely different situations.
So you expect the Brian Johnson announcement before they are scheduled to leave for the combine on Monday? So we got 3 days or so.
The Eagles tend to introduce their coaching staff at one time.
Right.
Now that's been their history. Now, many times, like with head coach, you can't do that. Obviously, you hire a head coach and then he's got to hire a staff. So it works a little bit differently. In this instance, say if they're going to promote both Brian and Dennard, they're probably going to announce it at the same time. Will it leak? It's kind of already leaked. I mean, Nick pretty much went through his entire press conference talking about Brian Johnson like he was the offensive coordinator. I mean, so when it comes out, when it announces, look, I thought they would have both in place by the combine because you would want coordinators to interview the candidates to be drafted and all that kind of stuff. But remember, Jody, if the guys know behind the scenes, it's not that big of a deal. In other words, if Dennard Wilson knows he's going to be the coordinator, they don't announce it until they get all their ducks in a row, but he's working out in Indy as the coordinator, it'll probably leak out, but they don't have to announce it.
Well, if they do decide on who the defense coordinator is going to be before the combine, because that would only make sense when you finally, and when I say you, I mean all you Eagle beat reporters, when you finally get a chance to meet, greet, and question the two new coordinators for the Philadelphia Eagles, I have faith that Martin Frank will ask to Dennard Wilson, does it bother you that they brought in 7 other candidates to interview, whereas your counterpart on offense had one unknown outside the organization complying with the Rudy rule potential
but you're
interview?
Assuming that's the end game, Jody. They might interview. They might interview Kevin Patullo in-house. They probably will, to be honest. So that gets you up to 3. They might be interviewing a bunch of college guys to get the innovation. As I say, innovation trickles up in football, the football industry, not down. They might be doing that, and it hasn't leaked to the press, but it might be the same direction. We're just picking people's minds because we have an opportunity. But with Dennard Wilson, I think, Noah and Brian Johnson's in the same category as well. And we'll use Vance Joseph. And Vance Joseph is a middling defensive coordinator, but he was a former head coach and he's a big name. He's got some cachet. Dennard Wilson doesn't have any cachet. I'm sorry. He can't sit, oh, this is terrible that they've interviewed a bunch of guys and not promoted me. He's never been a coordinator before. That's when I say it's part of the industry. He understands that. He understands how it goes. I don't think it's going to be an issue at all. But we'll hear what our buddy Martin Frank has to say about that.
Martin Frank up next with us here on Birds